So it's got a wide angle lens on it.
Cool.
So we're in there and it's recording.
Perfect.
I should have told you ahead of time,
Okay.
and I'll tell you exactly what the channel is about, and
Yeah.
you can decide if you don't want to do it. Okay.
Okay.
So it's for my church. So
Gotcha.
I'm trying to set a good example that we can have healthy dialogue with people of whatever background.
Yeah.
So I start with the same question for everybody. We're all going to die someday. What happens next, or what do you think happens next? Or
Yeah.
What do you believe?
Right.
And then whatever you believe or doubt about that, then I continue to ask more questions. But like, how did you get there? So it's more of a conversation. So
Sure, that's no problem.
yeah. What's your name?
Ronan.
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 Okay. Jeff.
Jeff, pleasure
Yeah.
to meet you.
Ronan. How do you spell that?
Ronan.
R-O-N.
It's a Gaelic version.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You look Gaelic.
Thank you.
So yeah. So what do you think? What's your what are your beliefs presently?
Yeah. After death?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had this conversation before. My friend, one of my closest friends, is a Jehovah's Witness.
Uh-huh.
So he actually would come to my door all the time, every Sunday, and we would talk about this. I grew up Catholic, but I'm not as active in the church much anymore.
Yeah.
But after death, I'm really not sure. When I was a kid, I thought there was the traditional we'd go to heaven, and as I got older, I don't think that we just sort of die and that's it. I do think there's like a spiritual afterlife of not sure what it is. I think that's still an open question, and I think the great part about it is like there is no definitive answer. So that's like the part of the journey
what makes these conversations so interesting.
Yeah, I think the easiest way to go about it in life is, sure, we're all gonna die, but that's so far on down the line, at least hopefully.
Yeah.
So why think about it? And where we go afterwards, that's the second chapter of the journey.
Yeah.
I do believe that there's some spiritual afterlife, whether it's the Judeo-Christian heaven or whether it's some other form. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I do think there's something.
So I mean, that's what the Bible says. We have a soul. There's a part of us that's gonna live forever, outlive our body. Of course, it talks about heaven and hell, but would you say you believe in a God or like a
I do think
higher power of some sort?
I do think there's like a higher power.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that everything happens for a reason. I don't think we have a controlled fate, but I do believe that there is some sort of God or spirit or something, whether it be just the universe. That's like a term I've started to use a lot more, is the universe just sort of decide to let that happen rather than God, so it keeps it more neutral in the sense of we're not so sure.
Yeah.
I don't believe there's a big dude with a white beard sitting on a throne chair, but I do think there's something.
Yeah.
So
I'm not Jehovah's Witness. I go to just a non-denominational Bible church a few blocks from here. Jehovah's Witnesses have become very actually I think Jehovah's Witnesses are the reason a lot of church people don't do this sort of thing.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, because a lot of, I don't know if you've ever had the experience of them coming to your door.
Oh yeah, that's what my friend did.
Yeah.
For 10 years, yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't talked about that with him, but they do kind of get a bad rep.
Yeah.
People don't take the time just hear them out and see what they say,
but this is someone you knew.
I knew very well
before he came to your door. Right?
Yeah,
so,
I knew him very well. And when he started coming when I was he would visit from second grade through my senior year of high school.
Oh wow.
So we would just have, it was on and off. Some days it was, some days it wasn't, but it was kind of nice and convenient because I didn't have to get out of my house to go to church. He came to me and we talked about stuff for an hour. And I was like, okay, cool, see you next week or next month or whatever.
That's one of the things I'm trying to start to do is when I talk to people and they do have some kind of an interest. Like I don't believe I can convince anyone to be a Christian. I think that's a person's individual decision. And I believe God works in their hearts, and so I just trust that whole process. But I do think it's important to kind of inform people about the gospel message. A lot of people, most people that I meet that have a bad opinion of the Bible, got that opinion from someone else. They didn't actually read it for themselves,
Yeah.
or they're basing it on maybe some things they remember from their childhood, but don't haven't read it lately, And I guess it makes sense. If you don't believe in something, why spend time in it,
Yeah. And what I think too is it's like there are outlets for people that people can click to and people can connect to. And there are other outlets that people just don't vibe with.
Yeah.
One of my dear friends who I was just hanging out with last week, he was a pretty faithful, pretty hardcore Catholic for his entire life. All throughout high school, like I knew him. We were like, hey, you're the Catholic dude. Like he goes to church every Sunday. He volunteers. He's super involved with the church. Now, so he's a little bit more lax on it. Some of his views have changed. He's still pretty religious. He's still very Catholic and still pretty involved with the church.
Is he a married family man kind of thing?
Oh, no, he's about my age.
Yeah,
about my age.
Early 20s.
Yeah, early 20s. Yeah. I like. But even in high school, not everyone likes football. So everyone's going to go off and do their own sport. And each and every sport isn't like lesser or higher than the other. They're all pretty equal in what they do. And I think it's the same thing with faith or religion or spirituality. I have two of my very good friends from high school are Muslim. And so
you got quite a...
So we've had tons of
quite a group of friends.
Yeah, so we have like tons of conversations back and forth of really just my big thing is like just trying to find similarities in all of it.
Yeah.
Because we talk about like her lifestyle as like growing up Muslim in America, and I was like, oh well, my mom had that same experience because my grandparents are immigrants. From Ireland. So my mom had hardcore Catholic parents. Her parents have hardcore Muslim parents. So there's a lot of similarities with. They're both of those religions. I think it's important to really sort of connect, but it's also like, well, we're not that different. We're different, but it's like there's a lot of similarities that why the point of fighting over which is better, I think Christianity is like, gets a bad rap. I don't think it's a terrible religion. I do think the Catholic Church needs to make changes just with what's been going on in the last couple of years, But that doesn't mean like I don't think it's to totally disregard it. Maybe in 10 years I might appreciate it more. Right now I'm sort of putting it on the back burner. But
how did you? I guess it's a friendship, so it's a little different than a stranger coming to you and talking to you. I was just going to ask like what was your impression of the Jehovah's Witness? I mean obviously he's trying to convert you, right?
Well, not really,
or just trying to talk?
Yeah, he just wanted to talk, really.
Yeah.
Because we both knew that he knew I was Catholic, and I knew that he was, like, Jehovah's Witness. As a kid, I was like, I don't know what that means. Is Jehovah's, okay, cool. Like, that's a company you work for? Like, great. I had no idea. Like, I had a conversation with him at lunch, I remember one day, and he's like, oh, yeah, like, my dad's Jehovah's Witness. I'm like, oh, so there's, like, your boss he works for? Like, so he goes to, like, an office every day? Like, it was kind of... I didn't know what it really meant, but he never really tried converting. It was more or less just keeping the conversation going. What they're saying. He was basically like, hey, this is my religion. I'd like to talk to you about it. This is what I believe. Let's compare details. Let's come to a common ground, or let's have a discussion of something that's like we see as something different. Which I liked, and that's why I kind of kept telling him like, yeah, you can come by whenever, because he never tried like, this is why I'm right. This is why this is the correct answer. He always was like, hey, he always gave me like the pamphlets and the brochures, and he always said, I really think you should look at this. I think it's kind of cool. It's been great. Sometimes I'd read them, sometimes I wouldn't. But like we kind of came to that mutual agreement where I respect your thing, you respect my thing. We're not trying to hound down on each other. We're both teaching each other something, and we saw the similarities. And then that was the important part, and that's what my Muslim friends. That's what sort of kept us as friends and came us to understand is that we saw our differences, but then the bigger part was that we saw the similarities between the two. And that's like a bigger part that I think like society sort of needs to realize. Like football or like hockey and basketball, like pretty much the same sport. I'd get like
that's a good analogy.
I would totally get whacked by somebody. My dad's a huge hockey fan. Tons of my friends like basketball, and probably won't agree on like hockey is great or basketball is great. But I grew up watching hockey, and at my school I go to a lot of basketball games, and I'm like, it's like the same form of game. You're just taking out the ice, the stick, the skates, and you're bouncing a ball and you throw it into a basket, and there's no goalie. But the premise of the gameplay is similar. You're on one side, offense, defense, you switch, you go to the other side of the court of the rink. there's a lot of similarities, there's tons of differences, but they're just taking a different approach to that common gameplay.
Yeah.
Format.
I'd like to offer maybe a commonality that all religions have that maybe you hadn't considered, and then a difference. So the commonality, and this is, like I talk to people of faith all the time, and so the Bible teaches that everyone, ever since the first sin, Adam and Eve, they bite from this forbidden fruit, and then it says their eyes were open, they knew good from evil, and so everyone has been given since then has been given a conscience, like a moral conscience, And so a commonality is that we're all basically made in God's image, so we're all human beings, and then and we all know good from evil. We may disagree in general because different religions have different, cultural associations that have built up around them. But in general, maybe even just to say we all believe that there is a standard of right and wrong that we're held to and we're accountable to that we didn't come up with. It's more like it's kind of like a referee in our brain, getting back to the sports analogy. And so we have arguments with the ref. We might try to say, hey, but my circumstance is different. I think I'm the exception to the rule or whatever. But bottom line, we know we're accountable for this sense of right and wrong. And the thing that all humanity shares is whatever our conscience says, we break it. From time to time, and oftentimes we keep it, which to me that's a beautiful thing, And religions that teach that, you should do the right thing, I mean, they have a strong moral, ethical system, and I'm grateful for that. I don't necessarily believe that religion has caused all the wars, I know it gives some people an excuse for wars, but overall, I think it helps people to become better people. So I'm grateful for the world religions like that. Most, the ones that I guess I figure if they've existed many generations, then they have some staying power for a reason. It's based on moral values and that sort of thing. So the difference is. So we all have this moral conscience, we all break it. And so the question is to our Creator, and not everyone thinks in these terms, but this is what the Bible teaches, is that we know we're accountable to someone, and not ourselves, not our society. It's more like an eternal accountability. So it would be God or a higher power or whatever it is. How can we justify our existence, justify having broken gone against what we know we shouldn't do, or failed to do what we should have done, and go into eternity with that knowledge, And
I had this conversation in a philosophy class.
Okay.
It was a film philosophy class, coincidentally enough. We was watching the movie Tree of Life by Terrence Malick.
Okay.
And it's a handful of film, but it's a very, very religious oriented film. But we had this conversation, like, if there's a God, why is there so much bad in the world?
Why is there so much
bad in the world?
Okay,
why is there so much, bad stuff? And I sort of jokingly told my teacher, but I was also sort of serious, is like, well, we're kind of all children. Like, we're 5 years old at this point. Like, if you put it on the scale of, like, the amount of the history that, like, humans have been on this earth, we're like the equivalent of, like, a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we've been around for millions of years, and we evolved a couple of dozen times, but we haven't been on the planet as nearly as long as alligators have. Mm-hmm. They've been around for tens of millions of years. Just now they haven't evolved to, like, a human species of thought patterns and different things like that. But an easier way to sort of see it is, like, in the United States, at least I would say the majority of the United States, we all collectively see that racism is bad. But there are other things, other social inquiries that pop up throughout time that requires more discussion to see whether it's right or wrong. And I think our moral compass will be realigned as we keep progressing, as we keep evolving, and we keep having these conversations.
Yeah.
Eventually we'll be able to come to a time probably past mine and yours lifetime. Of, okay, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. We know that for a fact.
Yeah.
I think right now it's like us. I feel like humans right now, we're all in middle school, and we're really trying to figure out what's right, what's wrong, who's the cool group of kids to hang out with, who are the bad kids to hang out with. And there are periods of time where we figure that out. You know, in World War II, we figured out that Nazism and fascism and world dominance is bad.
Yeah.
You know, and with Vietnam, it's like, let's just not go in and police another country without knowing their situation, you know? And the periods that, like, those are learning and what grade we're in, I guess, as humans, I'm not sure.
Right.
But we still have a ways to go to really come to full circle and say, okay, here's our template, here's our new book, we've learned, you know, we've graduated college, or we're at the age of 60 and we've finally figured out, you know, our mental acuity as collectively as humans. And I think it's just because we're so young as a species that we're still trying to develop and figure those things out. Like, there are people that are still 50-50 on the abortion thing, and not to open up that can of worms, but that's still like a thing that many of us can't decide on. Yeah. You know? But 50 years ago, segregation was like a 50-50 thing as well. Yeah. You know? How abortion is going to turn out, I'm not sure, and like I said, it's a whole other can of worms, but societal, like, conversations like that, even like with healthcare, say, as is a better example. 10 years from now, 15 years, 20 years from now, we'll have our answer because we've just been discussing it. And now that's like another, okay, we went from the 7th grade to the 8th grade and so on and so forth. Yeah. That's how I've sort of been seeing
I feel like culture is, and society is constantly becoming morally better.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think it is. I do think I like the millennials in my generation sort of get a bad punch, you know, with just sort of being the lazier or the mischievous sort of generation. But, you know, thankfulness to the internet, you know, a lot of like the cultural similarities haven't, like, they've become, like, we've seen all that because of these new advances in just our culture and stuff. So I think time will run its course as long as we keep having these progressive moments in time to see the similarities and to know what is right and what is wrong and to keep enforcing those things. Yeah. I have faith in humanity that we'll just sort of realign ourselves.
I like that you called it a moral compass, because I think that's, when I think about a compass, I think like wherever you are in the world, it might point a different direction, but it's still pointing to the same thing.
Yeah, it might have a different, like,
depending on the situation.
Surfacial meaning, right? Like the dialogue might sound different, but like the subsurface themes to it is the same.
Because I don't like to say morality is relative to our situation. Yeah. A compass, it might be different in different situations, but it's still pointing to that same, you know, moral standard. Yeah. It just looks a little different from different angles, I guess. Yeah. So, and that's not just culturally; it's also like chronologically. So, like you're saying, you know, we're changing as we go through. I kind of feel that we're getting, I don't know, I kind of feel like the internet is exposing us to everyone to each other, right? Although at the same time, I guess it's kind of like the logarithms that they use are kind of dividing people too. You know?
And the internet's very young too. Yeah. You know, and I don't think the internet is perfect yet.
Oh no.
You know, and there are definitely problems with the internet, and there are times where I'm like, the internet is just a heaping pile of garbage. But I do think that there is a huge benefit to the internet that we owe a great amount of gratitude for that we wouldn't have gotten with elsewhere. I think the internet, just like humans, will just progress over time, and it'll just get, like, the car. Yeah. The car was trash when it came out, and it was just not, like, but we saw its potential. Because we saw that, okay, in probably 100 years, this thing will be amazing. Yeah. And I think the internet, it's hard to grapple because it's sort of like that sci-fi, you know, fantasy movie from the 60s still, as people kind of sort of see it. But 100 years from now, it'll probably be like what the car is of today. Yeah. And there's still problems with the car. Like, people are still getting DUIs, people are still crashing cars, they're still causing havoc, they're a lot safer, you know. But there are problems with the cars, and there'll still be problems with, you know, the internet. But even when humans reach the age of 80 or 90 and they've lived life to a fullest and they've established like their morals, they still have their own problems.
Oh yeah.
And we can't escape that. But as long as they're able to recognize, okay, this is sort of a fault that I have, you know, I'm going to try and work on it.
I feel like the internet brings out the worst in people if they want to go that direction.
Yeah.
Because they think, okay, what's the lowest common denominator? I'm not that bad, but I do this and I do that. And then I know for me as a Christian, there's a lot of resources available on the internet.
Yeah, it's an invaluable resource. You can access anything on.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. Do you feel like you're okay? Let's say that you died. Like you don't live the long life that you're expecting to.
Yeah.
I hope you do.
Me too.
But we all have to be aware of that possibility. If you died, you're standing before God. You find out that the God of the Bible is real. There is a heaven and a hell and a judgment day. Are you 100% sure you would be in heaven? What do you think about that?
No, I don't think. I mean, it'd be nice.
And I'm not saying like you believe it, but what I'm saying is according to what you know of the God of the Bible. So
yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest with you, because there are moments where I feel that, not to sound selfish, that I guess it would be, I could see myself being okay. I'm not like the worst person on the planet, you know, but I guess there are times in like my everyday life where I'm like, okay, I probably should have done better time with this or this.
Yeah.
You know, but where it's been a while since I've sort of read up on like what qualifies to go to heaven or hell, but you know, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, because there are days where I walk by a homeless person and I don't give them the time of day. There are days where I yell at people on the road and there's road rage because a guy cut me off.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you seem like the rest of us. You would be not completely bad and not completely good. You know, somewhere in there.
I feel like a middle ground is like acceptable, and I feel that's where most people at.
Yeah.
And there are obviously like people that are probably going, like Hitler obviously went to hell, right? There's like no question about it.
Right.
You know, Mother Teresa is probably in a very good place, you know. But I think like for the common person, I think it's sort of it's like where does FDR fall on the totem pole?
Right.
Like he totally like gave an entire wealth of opportunity to the entire like United States and like tore us out of a complete and utter depression when he got us into World War II.
Right.
So like where is like that balance him, and that's where I'm not sure, and I won't know until I get there.
Yeah.
And I think that's like kind of the fun part is you won't know until you get there.
Yeah.
You know.
So you've spent a lot of time with your Jehovah's Witness friend and Muslims. Have you talked with them about their beliefs or?
Yeah.
So
it's been a while, but yeah.
Yeah. So one of the differences between Christianity, like when you get up close and when you actually read the Bible, right? Because a lot of people, it's like you look at mountains, they all look the same from the distance, but you get up close, it's like, oh, okay, this one's got a different path.
Yeah.
So Christianity, what makes it unique from all the other, I'll say major religions, is that most religions teach if you're a good enough person, kind of like what we've been talking about, like have you done this, have you done that? If you're a good enough person, you can kind of outweigh the bad in your life and maybe have a, some kind of a better afterlife, whatever the religion teaches, right? Yeah. And even people that grow up in Christianity or Catholicism, they, if they don't do their homework, if they don't read the Bible, they come away from that experience with that impression. Oh, I just got to be a good person, go to church on Sunday, say my prayers, and I'm good to go,
Yeah.
The Bible teaches that front and center is this person, Jesus Christ, who died on the cross, not for good people, so if we could be good enough and somehow earn our way to heaven, we wouldn't need Jesus. But it says Jesus died for sinners. Yeah. And so one thing that was, when I was 17, I was told, some people, let me know that I'm a sinner. They said it in a way where I could take it. and I saw that I have this tremendous debt to God that I can't pay for with good deeds, because the good deeds we do, we should do anyway. That's what Christianity teaches. It's like, if you're doing good, you're using the benefits God gave you, the time, the energy, the health, in a way that you should. So So I can't outweigh my bad with my good. The good I should do anyway, and the bad, it's like, man, standing before God on Judgment Day, I'd be guilty. I've lied, I've stolen, I hate to admit it, but I've done all these things.
Yeah.
Used God's name disrespectfully, looked with lust, Jesus said. Even if you look with lust, that's like adultery in your heart.
Yeah.
He said if you call someone a bad name in anger, it's like you're committing murder in your heart.
Yeah.
So he was real strict, about it. And the kind of the point is, it's according to man's standards, we could be one of the better people, maybe in the top half of the class, right?
Yeah.
We can always find people that are worse than us. But at the same time, I can always find people that are way better.
Yeah.
But according to God's standard, it's perfection. He's holy. There's a even if you did one thing wrong, like bite an apple that God said don't eat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the point of that story is God was saying, I'm in charge. I have one simple rule. That's all you got to follow. And we broke it. And I probably would have been the first one to have broken that rule,
Right.
because I would want to make the rule myself. And I would wonder, well, why, I don't know, why God, are you in charge? Why can't I be in charge? That's kind of what they were saying by their actions. So the difference of Christianity is that Jesus died and took the punishment we deserve, because God loves justice. There must be a punishment for sin. If there's no punishment, then the other religions would say, well, you just have to really work hard and pay for it,
Yeah.
Christianity says, no, we could never do enough good because we should do that good anyway.
Yeah.
So Jesus took our penalty in our place on the cross. You've heard this, I'm sure.
Yeah, I've taken a Bible study class.
And so it's kind of a difference between works-based religion, which is like self-righteousness. I make myself right with God by my own efforts.
Yeah.
And Jesus severely criticized, the Pharisees. You remember studying them at all, or?
Not really. No.
The Pharisees were like this ultra-religious Jewish group in Jerusalem that looked down on everyone else and judged everyone else because they thought, oh, we're holier than thou,
Yeah.
They're self-righteous because they were trying to get to heaven by their own efforts. And that's the only group that he really criticized, and he let them have it.
Yeah.
If you read in the Bible. And so I got to say, you know what? Jesus would also let other self-righteous people have it too.
Yeah.
By that same principle. And so what God doesn't want is a bunch of pompous, self-righteous, look down their nose kind of people walking around heaven, So I had to come to a point where I said, you know what? I am a sinner. I have broken God's laws. I can't save myself. And then they told me about Jesus and how he died. He took my punishment for me. So I can confidently say I'm going to heaven without being a self-righteous, pompous, arrogant individual, because Jesus took my punishment, not because I deserve it,
Yeah.
It's more like, wow, God, I go through life with this sense of wonder, like, why me?
Yeah.
Why would you do that for me and others that, put their trust in Christ? And so it's become something that I do like to share. I guess you can probably tell.
Yeah.
Because it's not something to be kept to myself, It's like,
Yeah.
It's like if I know there's a cure for cancer, wouldn't I tell someone who has cancer? If I was cured by it, the right thing to do is tell other people.
Yeah.
The bad thing is you got to tell them they have the disease. They might not know.
Yeah.
That's the hard part.
And that's sort of like, well, hey, it's like, oh, you get fired from your job, but by the way, this company just offered you.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like a give and take, it hurts, but
yeah.
But I think, it's like there's nothing wrong with, I guess, like the foundation of Christianity. I just think it's just the individual churches that skew it wrong.
Oh yeah.
On purpose. It's like the far radical white supremacist Christians just aren't real Christians. They're just using bits and pieces to make it the people.
The same thing happens in Islam and other religions too. Yeah.
Yeah. I think as a foundation, all religions have some form of, hey, this is what good is, this is what bad is, this is how we believe that to live life, and it's to, you know, don't like do good don't do good because like you're getting points to like get up into heaven.
Exactly.
It's like if you ever watch The Good Place, which is highly recommend, it talks about life after death. Is that it's like life on earth is like done by a point system, and like how many points you have is done if you get into heaven or hell is like the basis of the show.
Right.
And it's really, really smart because they don't like necessarily talk about religion on the surface. It's more or less just about like the general things of
so there's just
life,
like a little
bad.
ticker in the movie, and you can just see it changing as people do stuff.
It's like it starts off with like somebody like dies, and it's like, hey, you've gotten enough points, you're in the good place.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's no heaven or hell, but it's like the good place and the bad place.
Yeah.
So you've been here in the good place, and then like there's some dramatic things that like make the story sort of dramatic. Plot narrative that makes the story interesting, but it all relates to who's really good, who's really bad.
Yeah.
You know, and the show kind of talks about like, well, we're not all like there's no like good, there's bad, there's like obvious good and there's obvious bad.
Yeah.
But the majority is like there's a bunch of people in the middle that, you know, there are things that's like, you know, oh, we can't kill animals and stuff. But it's like don't like it's like tough eating. What was like the thing that they were saying? It was like, if say you want to be a vegetarian, and so you eat like this great salad, but that salad, like you can't control the fact that salad came from a farm that had poor animal conditions, and that there was pesticides used and not natural. Blah, blah. Like there are things that you can't control, and that shouldn't make you a bad person.
Right.
As long as you know.
There's societal factors, and we're kind of in bondage.
Yeah.
I mean,
as long as like my thing is like as long as you know that that you just don't like what you're saying, like don't be good just for like to get points.
Yeah.
You know, you should, you know, be helping people just because that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You should be doing good things because it's the right thing to do. And I think that's like the big thing that.
And to me, that's the difference between a works-based religion is like I'm trying to do enough good, and have I done enough good yet? And there's this constant pressure or constant what's the word for it? Drudgery, maybe.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, okay, God, I'm already saved. I know I'm going to heaven. Jesus died for me. What more? What can I do now to show my gratitude?
Yeah.
Because I don't have anything to prove. I just want to respond with faith, and you know, to turn that wonder that I have of why me, Lord, into well, how can I serve you? You know, like He gave His life for me. How can I give my life for Him? You know? And I'll just say it's turned my life into an adventure, which adventures are good and bad at times.
Oh yeah, that's for
so.
Sure. Oh,
yeah. Well, I appreciate the conversation. I don't want to wear out my welcome.
No, it's totally okay. Thank you for asking.
The reason I was wondering about the Jehovah's Witnesses.